Yeah, no, this is still a thing. And I look back at yesterday's videos, and I'm kind of surprised there hasn't been more backlash against my picks. But I think that's going to wait for the later videos, don't you? This Boba Fett hat looks cool, but it slowly suffocates my brain. It's all like vinyl feeling, and it's just yeah, it's a non-hockey related, and this isn't hockey related. And this shows that one of my favorite shows is Ash versus Evil Dead. It's amazing. And then they killed off one of my favorite characters, and I haven't finished season 2 because I'm still upset. I get very upset when they kill off one of my favorite characters on a show. I was like, really? They're dead? Ugh! Alright. Let's see how low this is on the board on the camera here. Oh, yeah, you guys can see that. At number 180, this is one of those movies that the first time I watched it, I was like, oh man, this movie's great. It's awesome. I love this. And then with subsequent viewings, I'm like, this movie's really long. There's a lot of wiener in it. There's a lot of uncomfortable moments in this movie. There's a lot of sex in this, and it seems really out of place. But it's still a good movie. I still enjoy it. And if it's on TV, I still watch parts of it. Because I enjoy parts of it. I think if the entire movie had just been Rorschach and maybe a couple other characters, it might have been better. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in many of the other characters. I think if Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach had been the only two characters and they just put other people in there, you might have had a really good movie. Because you have in Dr. Manhattan somebody who can see everything and is trying to do the right thing, and Rorschach who's kind of troubled and is trying to do the right thing. So, and saying Rorschach's kind of troubled is really an understatement. 179. This is where people are going to be like, wait, what? You can't have that at 179. How can you do that? I like Road Warrior. This is the only Mad Max movie that's in my top 200. I hadn't seen Road Warrior until I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah. I'm ashamed. I saw Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome back in the 80s, and I was like, eh. So I didn't bother watching Road Warrior because I was like, well, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome was kind of meh. So I don't know. I guess Road Warrior just kind of ends with whatever. They're not related to each other really at all. I like Fury Road, but I don't put Fury Road in the top 200. Fury Road would have been on this chart if it had been over 20 minutes sooner. It was the fact that as the movie was ending, they went, oh, we need to tack on another 20 minutes. And back you go. I was like, really? They're going back? Oh, kill me. Just kill me now. And it's too bad because it's a great movie as long as you don't tack on that extra time. A movie that overstays its welcome, no matter how well it's made technically, has overstayed its welcome and made me enjoy it a little bit less. I think if I stopped the movie with 20 minutes left, it's sort of like Insidious that isn't on this chart either, that my ex-wife and I watched it together and she went to the washroom and missed the last 10 minutes. And she remembered it as a good movie, and I remembered it as a good movie that had a really crappy last 10 minutes that just destroyed the rest of the movie. So she was like, I want it, well, why don't you rewind it and I'll watch it? And I said, no, you're better off with that memory than actually seeing the ending of the movie, because the ending of the movie is incredibly stupid. Just stupid. When Hollywood's like, well, we got to have a sequel, so you got to take that ending and change it, you can tell. It's really frustrating. 178. Proof that I have comedies on my list. The Other Guys. The Other Guys stars Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell as just hilarious cop duo. I'm not a Will Ferrell fan for the most part. You're not going to see most Will Ferrell movies on here. Um, the Talladega Nights, that's unwatchable. I think I got 20 minutes into that. I turned to my friend and I said, Chris, is this getting any better than this? And he said, no, that's as good as it gets. And I said, all right. And I turned it off and I handed him back the disc and I said, thank you for saving me from having to actually rent that or buy it or anything. Or waste time watching it online because it's awful. And he agreed, and I was very grateful that he shared that with me so that I could share his misery with him. He hated it. And The Other Guys is much better than that. It's a good cop movie. I don't have very many cop movies on here. Even Police Academy. I was like, maybe I could put the original Police Academy on here, but It's so stupid. I've tried watching it as recently as 6 months ago, and I can't get through it now. Yeah, as a kid, I thought it was hilarious. Now it didn't age well at all. What? Why did we like Steve Guttenberg? What was that? What was that about? I apologize for my writing today, but I'm trying to not block out the camera, which leads to this. So, 177 is Clockwork Orange, and this is a movie that's made extremely well. This is a movie that is, it takes you to a whole other world that doesn't exist and a future that never happened. It is shot beautifully. It has some of the best acting of any movie on my chart here, but it's too disturbing for me to watch again. I've watched Clockwork Orange twice, and I prided myself in watching it the second time because there are parts of the movie. For instance, one of the movies Yvonne wants me to watch with her is Singing in the Rain. I can't, because every time I hear the song Singing in the Rain, it conjures up Clockwork Orange. Damn it, Stanley Kubrick, you ruined my opportunity to see a musical I probably wouldn't enjoy anyways. Thanks, Stanley Kubrick, for mentally blowing up my brain. Clockwork Orange is very intense. You have to see it once. Clockwork Orange is a movie that you have to see once, and I'm challenged because Yvonne's never seen it, and she's very sensitive, and she doesn't like violence. So if you've seen Clockwork Orange, you can understand why I want her to see it, and yet I kind of don't at the same time. I'm torn on whether or not I want her to watch it. I've watched it. It's on this chart. I don't think even if she watched it, it would be on a chart like this of her own. 176, and this one was tough too because again, I think this is one that people really like, and I like Alien, but I wouldn't put it in my top 100. It wasn't in my top 100. And Aliens is not on this chart. Alien 3 is not on this chart, although Alien 3 is very underrated. And when people got really mad at Alien 3, I personally felt a lot of it had to do with the fact that in Aliens, there's like a billion of them. And then Alien 3, they bring it back down to a singular spot and a more locked-in area, literally, because it's a jail. And I thought it was really well done. And I thought it was brave to go that way after part 2. And then Alien Resurrection is this steaming pile of crap that never should have been made and has some of the worst lines ever delivered in the history of movies. Alien will make you forget all that. I don't have The Thing on this list either. I don't believe I do. You know what? I might. I know The Thing was one I was going back and forth on. The Thing is terrifying, and it's yeah, and Alien and The Thing kind of remind me of each other. In the surprise factor and in the fact that they do something different. They revolutionize the genre, which you got to do that every now and then. So if you haven't seen Alien, well, go out and watch it. It's a good movie. This one's easy to write. 300. This is Sparta, and it's all animated, and the blood never hits the ground, and it's rated R, but it kind of shouldn't be, and it kind of is, and it kind of looks like a video game. It's kind of like God of War, but it's kind of like Spartacus. Spartacus is a great series, though. Highly recommend Spartacus. And that's coming from a guy who's not a God of War fan, but I highly recommend Spartacus. Spartacus is fantastic. And I don't think without 300 we would have got the show Spartacus. I think we got Spartacus because of 300. Somebody somewhere in a room said, hey, this Spartacus thing, you think we could make that look like a 300 and resurrect it? Because that 300's made a lot of money. Remember, that's how things work in Hollywood. It's who made money this month? How can we make money that way too? 174. This one I'm torn on. And let me just finish writing it. Not Creepshow, Creepshow 2. Creepshow's not on this list. Creepshow, if it was just the crate and the part with the meteor, it might get on here, but I don't like cockroaches. I cannot handle cockroaches. I have never watched the part in Creepshow with the guy with the cockroaches from start to finish. I'm 45 tomorrow, and I've never done it. Creepshow 2 is hilarious. If I'm just grading it based on the hitchhiker getting run over by the car continually, it's much higher on this list. but you have to go with Chief Woodenhead, and you have to go with the Raft. Chief Woodenhead is kind of slow. The Raft is really stupid, and because teenagers are stupid in movies, they're just dumb, and like, and I understand there's people going, teenagers are stupid anyways. Not like this. Not like this. Not like they're constantly concussed, making decisions that you only make when you're concussed. And Creepshow 2, thanks for the ride, lady, is one of the greatest lines ever. I have used it for decades. As I get out of a car, if a woman's driven me somewhere, I will say thanks for the ride, lady. It is absolutely one of the greatest lines ever, and the hitchhiker's awesome, and him beating on the car while they're driving through the woods. It's just, there's so much beauty in that, but it's dragged down by the other two parts. That's the problem with movies that have anthologies, like Twilight Zone the movie, Tales from the Dark Side the movie, which is good, and Cat's Eye's another one. They're not on this chart because it's hard for anthology movies to live up. It's sort of like Amazon Women on the Moon too, which was a comedy anthology. Kentucky Fried Movie, comedy anthology. Certain parts of all of those movies are really, really good, but certain parts of those movies are also kind of iffy and boring. Not so much Kentucky Fried Movie. Kentucky Fried Movie is just weird. 173. This is a movie I will never ask my wife to watch because she won't make it through it. She couldn't make it through the first 5 minutes of Goodfellas, so I went, all right, you will never see Casino. Casino is so brutal and based on a true story, and I still, when I watch the car blow up, it's like, there's no way you survived that. But you know what? Fine, okay, movie, I'll suspend disbelief. The part in the desert with Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro, where they have to get away from, because they know the FBI is looking around and the feds are, into their stuff, so they may be wired and bugged. They go out into the desert to have a little conversation. There's a video on YouTube of Bert and Ernie, where they've dubbed that conversation over whatever Bert and Ernie are saying. It's kind of amazing. Joe Pesci is so good as being a badass in mafia movies. I can't watch Home Alone for that reason. Home Alone's not on here. Because when Home Alone came out, I'm like, no. Joe Pesci is not. No, he's not. Joe Pesci at any point in time could have pulled out a gun and shot Macaulay Culkin in the back of the head, stole everything in that house, and walked out and spit on his corpse on the way out. That's what Joe Pesci would have done. So when I see him, I'm taking a bucket in the face, I'm like, no. Click. Done. 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 Just done. Just no. I'd rather watch Baby's Day Out. I swear, just no. 172. This movie is hard to find a spot for because I've watched it too many times. I can't think of the last time I watched Army of Darkness. And I know there's been times where I've watched Army of Darkness and I've kind of enjoyed it, but there's been times where I get bored, forget I'm watching it, and I go do something else. I'm like a little kid that way. I'm going to watch Army of Darkness. Click. All right, now that's on. Oh, hey, I'm going to go, and I might go out to the kitchen, make myself a sandwich, go do something else, and then I come back and I'm like, 20 minutes of the movie, you're done. Oh, well. And I say this as a guy wearing an Ash vs. Evil Dead shirt. I love Army of Darkness. It's clever. It's fun. I don't know that I would say it's a classic. It's a horror classic of sorts, but it's also a comedy. So in Evil Dead 1 and 2, it is determined, more in 1 than 2, that the only way to kill the Deadites, or these demon things, is they're not zombies. Stop calling them zombies, Internet. Stop it. They're not zombies. They're not dead. Army of Darkness, they decide you can just shoot them in the chest and they're dead. Because Sam Raimi wanted to make a mainstream movie. He understood that Bruce Campbell and the way he acts and he overacts is fantastic, and he wanted a mainstream crowd to see it. He couldn't do that with the over-the-top gore of Evil Dead, and because Evil Dead 2 ends up with him in medieval times because Vortex, I can't explain it because it doesn't make any sense. But because Evil Dead 2 ends up where Army of Darkness starts, he went the way of something awesome. And there's so many great one-liners. To this day, if I meet somebody who's very important and rich and thinks the world of themselves, in my brain I'm saying, well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. That's what goes through my head. You ain't got nothing but two things right now, Jack and shit, and Jack just left town. I say that all the time. All the time. It is one of my favorite things to say. But one-liners don't make it a movie that I watch a lot. Little Goody Two Shoes and all that stuff is great, but it's still down here. Because there's so many movies I just couldn't justify putting it ahead of. 171, and this is a movie that a lot of people are torn on. And if you think it's stupid, you're probably right. And if you think it's great, you're probably right too. And that's Cabin in the Woods. So some years back now, it was decided that they wanted to do a Scream type thing with the kids going out to a cabin and getting slaughtered. So the Evil Dead kind of trope. It had already been done with Scream with the slasher movies, and they decided we're going to do it with the Evil Dead type thing with everybody at a cabin. Without saying Evil Dead, because, copyrights. It's a mixed result. There's some really great moments, and the idea that there's somebody out betting on this, and that there's this whole internet thing that goes on with this is fun, and that they've been following these kids and what they're doing is fun. But towards the end, the chaos kind of gets too much. And then when they explain it, and it depends on who you ask. Watch Mojo says it's one of the worst plot twists ever is how they explain why they're doing this. I think they wrote themselves into a corner. I think somebody sat in a room and came up with this really great idea of what if we could get all of the big horror movie villains all into one movie. And somebody went, that's a great idea. How are we going to do that without destroying copyrights? Well, I guess we could do it by not exactly ripping off other ideas and kind of sort of. You have a merman. A merman? Yeah, no, it'll be funny. Trust me. I've done a rough draft of the script. It's funny. We have a unicorn. We could have, and they do all these villains well. But when they came up with that concept, somebody somewhere had to say, well, how do we explain that? And the answer must have been, I don't know, we'll figure that out in post. We'll figure that out after we've started filming. Because that's kind of how the ending feels. It's almost like an Ash ending. That Ash is told, hey, you can save yourself or you can save the world. And Ash's answer to that will always be, I'm saving myself, screw the world. And the kids in this movie, when they're given that opportunity, kind of do the same thing. And it's funny and it's kind of unexpected. But it does kind of, I don't know, it's one of those plot twists that's in there. And I don't know how I would have wrote it to make it make sense. But at the end, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because you ask yourself at the end of the movie, so if the world's going to blow up, how long did they save themselves for? Like 5 minutes? Is everybody dead? The good thing about Cabin in the Woods, no sequel. Just don't. Don't, Hollywood, stop making sequels all the bloody time. Come up with, I don't know, new ideas, original ideas, something different. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Again, if you see a movie on my list and you haven't seen it, I recommend it. And I recommend, these are all different things. So you've got a comic movie, action movie, comedy, weird, sci-fi horror, sci-fi action, horror comedy, because the Thanks for the Ride Lady's hilarious. Drama, horror comedy, and mostly horror, but with some comedy mixed in. So I do like horror movies, but I like them with a few laughs too. Without being able to laugh at something, it's just terror, or in some cases. You're not going to see a Hostel movie in here. You're not going to see Green Inferno. You're not going to see Cannibal Holocaust. You're not going to see any of that crap, or Spit on Your Grave, or Last House on the Left, or any of that, or Hills Have Eyes. I may like horror movies. There are movies I don't like, and I will definitely get into that at some point. But I'll film a second 10. I'm going to split these into 10 each because it takes too bloody long to talk about it. Thanks for watching, though. If you made it this far, hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and I'll talk to you again soon.